My name is Anna, and this is what I experienced in the summer of 2023 in a rented house in Amsterdam, Netherlands. I was 28 in the city for a 3-month graphic design project. With a tight budget, I found an old house on a narrow street near the Prinsengracht Canal through an online rental site. It was a 2-story building with tall wooden windows and creaky, narrow stairs. The landlord, an older man named Jan, said it had belonged to his grandmother and had been empty for years because it rarely got tenants. As he handed me the keys, he gave me a strange look and said, "Don't leave the upstairs windows open at night, even if it's warm." I assumed he was worried about thieves or the cold, so I nodded and didn't ask questions. The first day I moved in, the house felt off. It smelled of old wood and a sharp, damp mustiness, like the windows hadn't been opened in years. I set up my things and, exhausted, went to bed early. Around midnight, I woke to a tapping sound, like someone knocking on a window with their finger. My room was on the first floor, so I thought maybe a tree branch was hitting the glass. I checked. The window was shut, and there was no branch nearby. For a moment, I thought I saw a shadow pass behind the curtain, but when I pulled it back, the street was empty. I told myself old houses make weird noises and tried to sleep. A few days later, I was working on my laptop in the living room when the tapping came again, louder this time from upstairs. My heart raced. I figured it was pipes or the house settling, but when I stopped to listen, I heard another sound, like soft footsteps pacing on the wooden floor above. I was alone in the house. Grabbing a kitchen knife, I crept up the stairs. I flicked on the hallway light, but everything was still. A faint smell, like wilted flowers, hung in the air. I checked every room. Empty. The windows were locked. I brushed it off as fatigue, but as I went downstairs, I felt eyes on my back. Things got worse a few nights later. Around 2 a.m., I heard a scraping sound from upstairs, like heavy furniture being dragged across the floor. It was so loud I knew it wasn't my imagination. With my phone's flashlight, I went up. In one of the empty rooms, a wooden chair that had been in the corner was now in the center. I hadn't touched it. As I stood there, the hallway light started flickering, and I saw a tall shadow on the wall, like someone was coming down the stairs. I bolted to the front door, threw on my shoes, and spent the rest of the night at a 24-hour cafe down the street. The next morning, I called Jan and told him what happened. He tried to downplay it, saying old houses creak. But when I mentioned the chair moving, his tone changed. After some pushing, he admitted another tenant years ago had complained about noises and shadows and left early. He said his grandmother died in that house in 1960, in the room where I heard the scraping. She used to leave the upstairs windows open every night, saying she had to keep the way clear for them. I asked him who. He didn't answer, just told me to be careful. I decided to move out, but my lease had a month left, so I stayed a few more nights. One evening, while packing, I heard a faint humming from upstairs, like a woman singing a lullaby. I grabbed my phone and started recording. When I went up, the sound stopped, but the smell of wilted flowers was stronger. In that room, I felt something cold brush past my hand like a breath. I ran downstairs and kept the door locked until morning. Before I left for good, I set my phone to record in the living room all night. When I checked the footage around 3:15 a.m., I heard the same soft lullaby. At one point, a blurry shadow, like a woman in a long dress, passed the camera, and the downstairs window, which was locked, slammed open. I sent the video to Jan, but he said it was probably the wind. I packed up and moved to a new apartment. Months later, a colleague in Amsterdam said the house is still being rented, but new tenants rarely stay more than a few weeks. I still have that video on my phone, but I've never had the courage to watch it again. If you're ever looking to rent in Amsterdam, steer clear of the streets near Prinsengracht Canal. My name is Hiroshi, And this is what happened in the fall of 2022 in a house I inherited from my aunt in an old neighborhood in Kyoto, Japan. I was 35, working as an accountant in Tokyo. My aunt had passed away a few months earlier, leaving me her traditional wooden house with sliding paper doors and a small moss-covered garden. Since I had a good life in Tokyo, I planned to sell it, but first I needed to sort through her things. My aunt always said to keep the house, but I thought it was just nostalgia. The first day I arrived, the house was just as I remembered from childhood, quiet, smelling of cedar and old incense. That night, as I sipped tea in the main room, I heard a scratching sound from the back wall, like nails scraping wood. I figured it was a mouse or insect. I tapped the wall with a broom, and the noise stopped. But when I went to bed, it started again, louder, like it was coming from inside the wall. I turned on the light and checked. Nothing. I told myself old houses do this and went to sleep. A few nights later, while pulling weeds in the garden, an elderly neighbor came by and asked why I was alone in the house at night. I said I was there to sell it. He glanced at the house and said, "Your aunt was strong to live here alone." I asked what he meant, but he just shook his head and left. That night, around 1 a.m., I heard a soft tapping from the room where my aunt used to sleep, like someone knocking on a sliding door. I checked, but the door was closed and no one was there. As I walked back, a cold draft came from the hallway, even though all the windows were shut. Days later, while clearing out my aunt's old closets, I found a locked wooden box. I pried it open and found a diary and some black and white photos. The photos showed a young woman standing in the garden, but in one, a blurry shadow stood behind her, not quite human-shaped. In the diary, my aunt wrote that when she bought the house in 1970, the previous owner told her a young woman had taken her life in the main bedroom. My aunt noted that some nights, she felt someone walking in the garden or sliding the doors open and shut. I thought maybe she was imagining things in her old age. That night, as I closed the garden window, I saw something. A woman with long hair and a white kimono standing in the middle of the garden, staring at the house. My heart pounded. I locked the window and drew the curtains. All night, I heard scratching and a faint whispering from the walls. The next morning, I checked the garden and found a small footprint in the soil, like a woman's, but no one else was in the house. I decided to sell the house fast. I brought in a real estate agent to look at it. While we were touring the rooms, a loud crash came from upstairs, like a wardrobe falling. We ran up, but nothing was out of place. The agent said he got a bad feeling and didn't want to come back. The last night, as I packed, all the lights in the house went out. In the dark, I heard soft footsteps in the hallway, like someone walking in soft shoes. I grabbed my phone and ran outside, staying in my car until morning. I sold the house at a low price. The buyer called me months later, saying he hears noises in the walls at night and once saw a woman staring at him from the garden. I told him to sell it and didn't ask more. I still have my aunt's diary, but I've never dared open it again. If you're ever in Kyoto, avoid old houses in quiet neighborhoods. My name is Rebecca, and this is what happened to me and my friend Kate in the spring of 2023 in a rented mansion in Savannah, Georgia, USA. I was 26, fresh out of college, and Kate and I decided to take a month-long vacation in Savannah. We found a grand old mansion in the historic district on a rental site. Big, with white columns, creaky wooden stairs, and tall windows. The price was suspiciously low, perfect for us. The landlord, a middle-aged woman named Ms. Price, said it was cheap because the house needed repairs. She told us one thing: keep the basement door locked at night and don't open it. We assumed she was protecting old stuff down there, so we agreed. The first day, the mansion felt strange, like sounds got swallowed by the walls. It smelled of old wood and stale dust. That night, as we ate dinner in the dining room, we heard a soft knock from the basement, like someone tapping on the wooden door. Kate said it was probably old pipes. We checked. The door was locked and the sound stopped. Then the huge chandelier above the dining table started swaying, even though no windows were open. We laughed it off, saying old houses are quirky. A few nights later, while working in my second-floor bedroom, I heard whispering from the hallway, like two people talking softly. I thought Kate was on the phone. I stepped out, but the hallway was empty, and Kate was asleep in her room, her phone off. When I got back, my laptop, which I left on, was shut down, and a sketch I'd been working on was crumpled on the floor. My heart raced, but I told myself I'd been distracted. One day, Kate found an old metal box in the storage room next to the basement. Its lock was broken, so we opened it. Inside were stacks of letters and a family photo from the 1800s. The letters were about a family who lived in the mansion. Apparently, their young daughter, Clara, vanished in the basement one night and was never found. Kate said it might be a prank, but I felt uneasy. That night, the knocking from the basement came back, louder, like someone was pounding with their fists. Kate wanted to check, but I said we should call Ms. Price. She said it was probably a rat or a stray cat and promised to check in the morning. The next night, as I watched a movie in the living room, I heard a soft crying sound from the basement, like a child. Kate heard it too. We were frozen. We decided to wait until morning, but around 3 a.m., the locked basement door swung open with a loud bang. We ran to the front door and slept in our car until dawn. When we went back, the basement door was closed, but there was a muddy footprint on the floor, like someone had walked through with wet shoes. We told Ms. Price we were leaving. She apologized and promised a refund. Before we left, I set my phone to record in the living room overnight. In the morning, the footage showed a soft crying sound, like a child, around 3:45 a.m. In one frame, a small shadow, like a little girl, passed the camera, followed by the sound of the basement door opening. We showed the video to Ms. Price, but she said it was just light and shadow, typical for old houses. We packed up and moved to a hotel. A few months later, a friend in Savannah said the mansion was shut down after other tenants complained about noises and shadows. Once, when I was talking to Kate, she said she had a dream where a little girl in a white dress asked, "Why did you leave me alone?" I still have that video, but I've never gone back to Savannah.